How we doing today, everybody? Hope everybody's having an amazing. What? I don't even know the day. Wednesday, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Wednesday.
I was
Put me on the spot there.
right, that's not fair. It's because I was gonna say Friday. I was like, no. People gotta tell me don't say it's Friday because I would have been happy to go home and drink me a beer. The people that get out from work. I was like, no, it's Wednesday, guys. It's Wednesday, and I'm glad to be here in the Push Power to Power show, guys. And if you're already here tuning in, or the people that are gonna tune in, get your notebooks out, man. You're gonna receive a lot of value. And this is not gonna be the only time I'm gonna have her here. It's her first time, but I'm excited. I met her through another friend at the coffee place. Was
Vincent.
right? Yes, Vincent. And we met. What was it? At the Hank's place.
You put me on the spot
Oh my!
again.
It just went away.
Perfect latte.
The perfect latte. That's where we
Yes.
met, and then we had a meeting, and we talked to each other. And as I heard her story and what she's doing, and being a lawyer and doing all these different things and helping business owners, entrepreneurs, I was like, I gotta have her in the podcast for you guys. So this is gonna be purely value. So yeah,
All value.
all
No
value.
playing games here, right?
No time to play games. And I can't wait so to see it. And until you hear her background and stuff like that, and you hear what she does in a little bit, then you can write your questions down and send them because I can see them through here. And then I'll say, hey, I'll read the question, and then she can answer it back. So, okay.
Yeah,
So how's your day going?
Pretty busy. Busier than I expected, and
Very popular.
my day starts. My first meeting was at 7 a.m.
But Zoom, right?
Not on Zoom.
No. Okay.
In person, so I actually had to wake up and get dressed, and my alarm clock kept going off, and I had to realize I gotta get up. Admittedly, it was like still 10 minutes late to my first meeting.
Wow. Was it
It
closed?
hasn't really started yet. It was an exchange club. Love the exchange club. I'm on the board there, and they have their weekly meetings every Wednesday. And so shout out to the exchange club of Sugarland. They're my peeps, my good volunteer peeps. And and then from there, my day just kind of takes off and get phone calls from clients. Monday was quite crazy, just a lot of fires to put out. And for those who don't know, I reserve my Mondays entirely for emergencies. Entirely for emergencies. So clients who maybe they get served over the weekend or something happens over the weekend. It's not always a bad thing, but things just a lot of times they just pop up on Mondays. And so
you're ready. So you're ready to get hit.
I didn't do this originally when I started out, but honestly, I'm so glad I did. So other attorney practitioners out there, Mondays are for emergencies.
You heard?
Everybody out there, Mondays are for emergencies because attorneys really can't handle it. There's too much work. There's too many emergencies.
Okay, so we want to hear a little bit about your background.
Yes.
I know most of the people read it because I post your whole thing. I don't know if you saw that. I post the whole thing all the time. The whole thing.
My hype man.
Because I read it and I was like, oh man, if I just write a little bit and I was like, no way. She just perfectly wrote. Did you wrote it or somebody wrote it?
I think I wrote it.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know. It's been years.
It's been years. I know. It's like I have to get the whole thing, and people read it, and people are like, "Whoa, she's a lawyer." And
I still need to add more stuff to it, but I know, right? So my name is Colleen Migl. I am a business and real estate attorney. I practice about 50% real estate, 50% businesses. Let's see what else. So I graduated law school from George Washington University back in 2014. I then went into the working world, started out at Deloitte, woot woot, love my big four peeps, but left to go to a law firm, and that was predominantly a real estate law firm, spent a couple years there, then went out on my own, and at that point I got just a ton of acquisitions and M&A experience for another couple of years, and then my partner, Shannon Quadros, he was like, really need somebody like you. And I was like, I don't know, I need something really stable. And at this point, I didn't have enough confidence in myself as a business owner. I took a leap of faith, and it really worked out. And I love helping business owners, whether it's they want to set up a business, whether they're growing their business, they're trying to scale it, whether they're trying to buy their competitor out, or maybe they
Mm.
know someone who's exiting and they want to go ahead and take over the business. So I stay pretty busy. Needless to say, I think there's just a lot of baby boomers out there who've kind of decided to just go ahead and try to pass on their businesses to the next generation, whether it's their kids or otherwise. So just do a lot of that. And is there anything in particular you wanted to
No,
ask
yeah.
questions
Is that
about?
hard? Like that, what you said right there? Like, say I have my business and I'm ready to sell it. Is that a hard process to go through?
So I think it really depends on how large the business is. The larger the business, you need to have some processes and procedures in place, maybe people in place. I always tell people who come to me, if you haven't been thinking about it and you haven't been planning for this, it takes about 18 months to position a
Okay.
business, right? Especially if it's a sizable business, it's not someone's side hustle.
Yes.
I mean, side hustles are one thing, and
And
nobody's really
yes.
expecting structure and people necessarily on a side hustle. But if you have a real business with real people and real products and services, it's good to have some infrastructure in place, like really having the bookkeeper, really having the CPA, making sure all your books and records are in order, whether they're financial or otherwise, because a buyer, they're going to come in and they're going to say, oh, well, everything's a mess. So there's more risk that they're taking on when things are a mess. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but if you wanted top dollar for your business, well, it's what I call dings, right? They just ding the purchase price. So they would have said, well, we would have paid X purchase price for your business, but since you have such a hot mess in your accounting department or your accounting and tax or what have you, right? They kind of say, well, it's going to take us time to clean this up post-closing. We'll need you to stick around. They have to pay people to do that. And so they kind of just go ding the valuation, right? A business valuation is typically done either on the buy side or the sell side or both. And so both parties generally know how much the business is worth from a revenue standpoint, from a financial statement standpoint, unless, of course, the books are a complete mess. But generally, people have a good idea of how much money they're making annually in the business, and so if you just want to cash out at any price, well then maybe positioning isn't really something you have to be concerned about. But most people do want to get the most that they can. So it's very similar to like selling a house. If you want top dollar for your house, you're going to fix up your landscaping. You might change out your carpet. You might put in some flowers. You might, spruce things up a little bit.
Put
right?
a good background.
Yeah. Spruce it up a little bit. I'm not saying put lipstick on a pig, but
wouldn't it be fun?
Yeah. But you do need to, make it look nice and anticipation of a sale. And so if you just decide, one day you wake up one day and say, I want to sell, and you want to sell like next week. Well, it's great when you have a buyer already lined up, but most people do not have a buyer lined up already. And so it takes time to both position the business, and then you've got to go find a buyer if it's not someone who's already in the company or somebody who's already in your family who wants the business. Sometimes family members go ahead and buy it out, and they might be distant family members. It doesn't even have to
Is that easier or the same process?
So in terms of the process, right? So we talked about the positioning piece.
Yeah.
Then you have to get into that purchase and sale piece. So you have a lot of back and forth. You can do this as an asset sale, which is, right, if I just want to sell one piece of equipment, right? Like let's say I have 10 tractors and I only want to sell one tractor, right? So that's really an asset sale. You're just doing one little carve out. But on what we call a stock sale, you're selling the whole company, the whole kit and caboodle, the membership interest or the stock interest, and it's all going with it. And when that happens, the buyer may be taking on all the historical liability and risk from that business, right? From the beginning of time, from when it was formed. And so the due diligence process, what we call the due diligence process, looks much more hefty in that context, right? You're going to have to clean up a lot more stuff if you want to do an outright sale. And so there is what we would call a purchase and sale agreement. And that is where the parties are laying down the terms of the sale, like the purchase price, who's going to be responsible for taxes, who's responsible for what. and all the very, very detailed terms, whether it's employment, pensions, vacation for
all of the things.
employees, independent contractors, contracts, the whole everything, right? Everything. And that's where a lot of the back and forth comes in, right? Or all those terms. And then, of course, you have assignments, and you have all what we call the belt and suspenders pieces, the assignments, the closing documents. Just like when you buy a house, right? You have the contract between the two parties, but then there's also the big hefty stack of papers that you have to sign at the title company. Kind of same thing, not as hefty of a stack. Most people have bought a house or they've sold a house. So they, understand when I put it in those terms of this is what you have to expect. There's a closing, there's papers that you have to sign. There may be ongoing papers that you need to sign to continue the transition. Do we have any questions?
Not yet. They were putting hearts.
Oh, so, yes, I love hearts.
You're good, yes.
Everybody, I heard you back.
We heard you back, guys.
So does that kind of answer your question?
Yes,
there's a lot that goes into
There's more. I know there's more into it.
If you happen to have a super small business that doesn't really have much, it doesn't really take much to offload it, right? Because really there's just not much.
Like 5 employees.
That can still be, depends on what you're doing. But depends on what you're doing.
This is the most important one that I want to ask. I always ask because I see a lot of YouTube about this.
Oh, geez.
And I didn't
see your source of information. I don't know.
All right, but that's why we have you here, because I'm like, man, who to believe? I know they're in business, and I know but a lawyer's doing it already for the businesses. So it's like some people say that it doesn't really matter if you really have a DBA or an LLC, that you don't really need to have all of that. But I'm like, I know that you have to be protected, and there's some like, do you have to wait into the amount of time, like say myself, and I don't have it yet, but I'm still producing into the time that, okay, I got a couple of more clients that have the money to get the LLC, like people get in between that.
Let's go over the DBA real quick, because the DBA is like the everyman shortcut of trying to do business and not in his individual name, but really they're doing business in their individual name. So for the viewers out here, a DBA is short for doing business as, and it's something that you can file. It's a paperwork that you can file with the county and the state and say, let's give a bakery as an example, right? My name's Colleen Migl, and let's say I want to open a place called Colleen's Bakery, and I want to sell eclairs and cakes and cupcakes and all that good stuff. And so I just go to the county and I say, okay, I want to just be known as Colleen's Bakery. The thing about that is it doesn't provide any limited liability protection, right? If I get sued because somebody, they ate the little baby in the Mardi Gras cake and they choked to death, that person can then sue me, and they can sue me in my individual capacity, right? So if I have a lot of assets like boats, a second home, trailers, equipment, all that. Let's say for instance, I'm a bakery, but I have a lot of equipment, and I happen to be very well to do, and I have lots of stuff. All right, most bakers that I know they're not fairly well to do, but for this instance, I'm a rich baker, and so that would be not so smart on my part, because I have what we call non-exempt assets that can be used to satisfy a judgment. So let's say they succeed in court, they sue me, they succeed in court, and then I've got all of these excess non-exempt assets. Well, next thing you know, someone is going to show up at my house and say, I need to satisfy the judgment, and they're going to just go ahead and tow away all my stuff. Maybe they'll put a lien on my second home or something like that. And they're going after it, right? If I'm not paying the monetary judgment, they're going to go after my assets. But if you have a limited liability company or another entity, you may have protection in that you're not going to completely lose everything that you own individually, right? So it's, I call them bubbles of liability. So when I explain it to clients is that, when you get an LLC, treat each LLC as its own bubble. Now, of course, there are some exceptions to the LLC protection. It does not protect you. You can't go and commit intentional acts and then expect to not be able to get sued
Right.
individually. So if you're committing intentional acts, that's the LLC is not meant to be a shield for you to be able to do whatever you want, right? But it is a good place where you can insulate your business and your activities and your operations. So whether it's an LLC or a corporation, or if you're a limited partner in a limited partnership.
That like S corp.
So an S corp is not a type of entity.
Oh, okay.
So this is an example. This is how I usually explain it: is I can knock on the door of the Texas Secretary of State and I can say I want to go create an entity. My choices are LLC, corporation, general partnership, limited partnership, professional limited liability company. We can so on and so forth. But S Corp is not one of the options, right, that the Secretary of State offers. Not in any state, right? I can't go and knock on the door of any Secretary of State, which is the place where you get entities formed in your state, right? So I can't go knock on the door and say, I'd like an S Corp, please. What you can do, however, is you can go create that entity. So let's go and say I go knock on the Secretary of State's door. I tell them I want a corporation. And then we go ahead and form it. And then I can go knock on the IRS's door and say, hey, IRS, knock, knock, knock. I'd like to elect to be treated as an S corporation. So an S corporation is a tax concept. It is not it's not really a legal concept through our statutes here in any state. Does that make sense?
Yes. So not a lot of people use S corp. That I have met is more, or maybe.
I mean, it's a mathematical answer. Whether it works for somebody, it also depends on whether they want to keep the money in the business or do they want to always distribute it. So I usually refer them out to a CPA to make that mathematical determination. Usually once the business becomes sizable, they want to go ahead and consider the S Corp election.
Okay.
But it doesn't have to be made from the get-go. It can be made later. Okay. The election is you get an annual chance.
So what is that when you trademark? Is that like in between there, like LLC and that, when you trademark your business?
When is the time to trademark? Once you have a brand or a word mark or something that you know is good, right? You've already tested it a little bit and you're willing to spend money to keep it. So for clients who are still experimenting with their branding and testing some of it out, I kind of tell them, trademarks are expensive to the everyday person. I'm going to be honest with you. The USPTO is, their filing fees are a little steep. And so when it comes to trademarking, I kind of tell clients, is this your final answer, right? kind of like that game show, right? Is this your final answer? And I don't mind them coming back to me over and over and saying that they want to file more, right? I'm better off if they want to file more. But I also don't want them to needlessly spend money either, right? I'm very practical, and I want, especially for my first-time clients, to know that, hey, we can file as many of these as you want, but, there's costs, and I can't really give a price break on you filing a lot of these because the filing fees, the USPTO does not really give me a price break.
Man.
So neither does the Secretary of State. I know, the government institutions aren't really giving me a break to when filing fees, right? So in terms of the timing, right, once the business has gone off the ground and we know their branding is pinned down somewhat and they don't really want to change it, they're not on the fence about their logo or anything like that. You'd be amazed. A lot of people flip-flop. They're like, oh, that logo or that marketing, plan didn't really work out. Maybe they pivot, especially when they're starting out. There's a lot of pivoting that's happening true. Where they're grasping at straws at what's working and what's not and trying to adjust to whatever the market is and just navigating it. So everybody knows what they're doing, right?
No, yeah, I know that, especially now with COVID.
They don't know what they're doing. With that in mind, I tell my clients that you have about 1 year to get all your stuff together, right? is if you don't want to spend the money from the get-go when you start a business, there's a lot of risk involved. Make sure you get everything done within 1 year, right? Or get the process started. So make sure you get your bookkeeper within that first year. Make sure you get that CPA within that first year. The trademarks, once it's solidified, right? Do that within that 1 year period. And I do check on my clients when we hit the 1 year mark, and I say, okay, well, where are you at now? Did you just try to take off and absolutely just land right on your face? And has this gone anywhere? Have you instead taken a job elsewhere because you realized you couldn't quit your day job when you wanted to start this enterprise? So I really see it all over the place. Lots of different people, different folks, different strokes.
Yeah, that's true. I like that. Different strokes,
folks, right? So I give them a 1 year time period, because if you go beyond the 1 year time period, you start getting into a mess, right? There's tax filings that might go haywire. You might get an IRS audit. You might get a comptroller audit. And so letting anything go or slide past 1 year is really, I'm going to say it's a no-no, but you may have additional consequences where you have to answer to a government entity, and you don't have your stuff together. So the sooner the better. But I know that some people are they're not made of money, right? You got some people who've been planning to own a business or start a business or buy a business, and it's been their lifelong dream, and they've saved up hundreds upon thousands of dollars to do it. And so they're, well capitalized, but yet on that same token, you've got startups all over the place, and you've just got people who are putting in a lot of sweat equity into their business, but they're starting with nothing.
Nothing, yeah.
Right? They're starting with
You've seen that
That's the
right now.
great American dream, isn't
it's
it?
capitalism.
Is that you can start with nothing here in America, really, and then grow a nice enterprise, especially here in Houston.
Yes.
I don't know about the East or West Coast, whether it's really possible anymore, because the cost of living is so high.
LA is crazy, yes.
Cost of living is so high on those coasts. Nothing against the East or West Coast. I love both those coasts, but the cost of living is absolutely atrocious.
Yeah, and you're right. I have a friend over there that she's a realtor, and she was like, "Man, I think I'm gonna move back," because she was from here, not Houston, but Texas, and she's like, "It's hectic."
It is, and it puts people in really different positions. Whether they can. It takes them longer to buy a house. It takes them longer to really have stability in their lives because of the cost of living, right? And so anyway, at least here in Houston, I fully believe that the American dream is alive and well.
That's why we have the black over here in the back.
Go Texas.
Yeah.
We're very tax friendly here. We don't have a state income.
We don't pay taxes here.
Yeah, well, we pay property taxes. Anybody who pays property taxes, I appeal my property taxes probably just about every year. Especially if you own an older home that needs a lot of repairs, you can go in and say, "I got all this stuff that needs to be repaired."
See, and that will be for another show.
If you have a newer home, it's a lot harder to argue that.
Yeah, that's true.
But if you're in a home that's like pretty old, you could definitely go in with some documentation and try to make a case for yourself. And it's really not that hard. I think a lot of people, it's scary to them because they might have to go to a panel. There's the informal process, and then there's the formal process. And if you want quite the discount, you really have to go the formal process. Right? You hear about, you got so much money off of your value, and I'm like, well, that's usually not within their permitted parameters in the informal appeals process for appraisals. So that means they pretty much had to go in front of the panel and ask or beg. The panel has a lot of power.
No, yeah, they do. So we're gonna come back right now, guys. We're gonna show a little commercial about the stuff that I'm doing with the Kidpreneurs and stuff. These are my ambassadors for the foundation, and I'm gonna show you a little commercial where they were in channel 2 and in channel 26.
Oh, wow.
So I'm gonna show you one right now. But when we come back, we're gonna hear about Miss Colleen back in the day when she was in high school and college. What was Miss Colleen back in the day?
A nerd. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. So we're gonna hear about that. So you get value of what she does, and then value of what she went through until she became this and what she's in right now. All right, guys, we'll be back.
Onto this commercial.
Have made it their mission to make a positive impact in their community. And now their hard work is getting some very special recognition. Joe Sam has their story.
Who are the G-Boys? Well, they're not your average young teens. They're entrepreneurs and humanitarians made up of these three brothers, 12-year-old Prince Noah, 9-year-old King Ziggy, and 14-year-old King Tylan. I caught up with them in their business element at the firm space, where they shared how they've turned their positive ideas into a huge success that's being appreciated by the community.
It's really fascinating to see young kids out here really doing great things. What made you think about starting all of these different ventures?
Actually, all started with him. Yeah. He used to have a YouTube channel. He still has a YouTube channel called TG30. So then one day, we already had our clothing line, so we was thinking of ways we could like build our clothing line out, get more followers and stuff. And then he came to our parents one day and said, I think we should start a rap group. And we already kind of knew how to rap because our dad, he's a rapper too. So he like helped us and all that stuff. So ever since then, 3 years ago, we've had a rap group.
Giving love when we rap, making money, making sad. We got raps on rap, spitting facts on facts.
And now they have their own outreach program called Box Out Bullying.
We motivate kids to stop bullying, and if you're getting bullied, make sure you DM us inside our Instagram, because we could help you, or talk to a teacher, talk to the principal. We want to stop bullying.
That initiative, along with helping give out 500 shoes to kids in need and passing out 200 turkeys during the pandemic, has gotten them the attention of community leaders like the mayor and chief of police, awarding them with their own days to celebrate their hard work.
We are so happy that we got our own day in the city, because we want to inspire all the people in Houston to be great and to be responsible and to be amazing and treat others good.
So we have our own day in the city of Humboldt and Houston. It's a great honor.
And that positivity is inspiring hundreds of young people, generating them a huge following and turning them into local celebrities.
They congratulate us, and they are motivated by us, and they also always say, remember me when you blow up.
The G-Boys say they want to continue growing community support, sharing love, and leaving others with a strong sense of hope and motivation.
No matter like anything, like if you're struggling or if you're all the way up there, you can help anyone. Like if we could motivate you to even give someone a penny, that would be a good thing.
To keep on grinding, always accomplish your dreams, and never give up, because one day it will come to life.
And always follow your dreams and reach that goal.
Well, the G-Boys are also taking on the music industry and will be releasing a video called H-Town Anthem to continue spreading their positive message.
And we'll have a link on our website where you can learn more about their great work and what other projects they have planned. Very nice. All right, turn.
Yay! I hope you like that. These kids they inspire me. They've been doing so much. I mean, they just opened their Galleria, their clothing line.
I didn't know about them, but now I'm going to look them up. These kids are quite the inspiration. They even have their day in Houston, their own day. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. When I saw them the first time, it was like I had to talk to their mom and tell her all the things that I was doing. Then from there, we've been really good friends, and they come and visit. We do podcasts in the city center, and they come in and they bring me sometimes food, cupcakes, and then we spend a great time with them. Like every time I missed an event that they do, they're like, "What happened to Jesus? What happened to our mentor? Why is he not here?" And I had to get back to them and tell them, I had, if I had to.
You got other things.
Yeah. But now that I'm really truly want to do it out for the kids, I'm like not missing none of it. Like I'm there. Yeah. Like I couldn't believe that I was the first speaker this Saturday.
Oh
they called me. I was like, Jesus was coming. I was like, oh, man, I didn't want to speak first.
So the pros and cons with kids, right? If kids are just so full of energy, it's hard to keep up with them. But I think that's part of my secret, though, just to kind of transition here, is I built most of my book of business in my 20s. I only just turned 30. A lot of people don't know that. And so Originally when I thought about owning my own firm, I thought I would start a firm when I was 50 or,
Whoa.
I don't know, basically kind of like maybe I was done in the corporate world or something.
Yeah.
And
then
then I was going to take those funds and then kind of do whatever I wanted in my own business. And that wasn't exactly how it all played out.
So that's what it was.
I ended up owning a business a lot sooner than I ever thought I would. And it's been, it honestly was a blessing in disguise because building a business as you get older, you just don't have as much energy. It's harder to keep up with, customers, clients, vendors, everybody.
Did you say you just turned 30?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Everybody's going to be like, oh, that's not so old. But the real great part of it is that I was able to build a business on the back of my energetic 20 or
10 years
20-something-year-old self, right? So that Energizer bunny just kept going and wasn't wearing out as fast. And so if I had started a business later on, I'm sure I still would have been successful.
Mm-hmm.
Not knocking on anybody,
but
because everybody's energy levels are different, and if you're truly motivated to do something, you can certainly be successful. But it's just I feel like it would have been a lot harder than I initially probably anticipated or expected, just because at that point my life would have really been fuller. I mean, I would already have other responsibilities, other commitments, and maybe it would have never happened.
So that's why that was the question. What was remember before we went to the break?
Well,
what was your high school? No.
What was my high school?
Yeah.
I was a real bookworm. I love books. Big surprise that I turned into a lawyer, right? I get a lot of people who say that they want to become a lawyer, and they say, well, I love theater, I'm really outgoing, I'm in debate, and I was in debate. So debate is a great place to learn some good skills to be a lawyer. But honestly, most lawyers are not trial court lawyers. They don't go in front of juries. I'm predominantly a transactional attorney, which means for the most part I'm reading and writing. I would say 85% of my job is just reading and writing. So if you are a really big bookworm and you love writing and we're not talking about fiction writing, although you could certainly be creative as a lawyer too. But if you just really like grammar and writing and the structures of paragraphs and how essays are written, and maybe you're a little more on the academic side with books, honestly, I think is a better fit for an attorney, because attorneys have to, if they don't know the answer, we got to go to the library. We got to go research it. We have to,
when you didn't have all this internet back then.
We might not. Pre-internet anyway, but even post the internet, right? We have Lexis and Westlaw, and you have to have a lot of reading comprehension. And you have to be able to distinguish, cases that may have come in really close together or at different times or in different jurisdictions. So it's, I would say any kid who's just really shy, and I wouldn't say I was very outgoing, but I was definitely, I would say I'd be the kid who's not done reading the book and it's time to go to bed, right? My mom come in and be like, it's time to go to bed. I'm like, just 5 more pages, Mom. And what's the next chapter? Well, she knew I would probably want to have a stopping point. I mean, she figured it out at some point. I was like, I don't want to stop mid-chapter. Can I finish up the chapter? So my mom was a good mom. She would let me stay up so I could finish the chapter, even if it meant what I didn't tell her is I'd only just started the chapter.
I hope you're watching.
I was only 2 pages into that chapter, and I had another 20 pages to go or something. So I don't think she ever checked on me as to where I was in the chapter. But I was definitely that kid, right?
No party life.
Not a big partier. I had a couple of close friends, and I was definitely I was at the oddball table in school, like the lunch table. So I wasn't really with the popular girls. We didn't, I didn't have all kinds of name brand clothes or anything like that.
But you focus on what you really wanted at that age. So look where you're at right now.
Yeah. I focused on what I was interested in. So, debate was something I was interested in. Journalism was something I was interested in. In fact, I think the first major that I pitched to my parents was journalism. It wasn't pre-law. It wasn't English. I think English was the second one that I pitched to them. And then they said, well, you have to be willing to be a teacher. And I was like, well, and not necessarily was opposed to being a teacher, but I thought if I could, be a lawyer, that would be nice.
The skills picked up.
So my practical parents, being the practical parents that they are, I got a major in accounting in college, and I have a minor in English, and then I went on to law school. What I didn't realize at the time was the accounting degree was probably one of the best things I did, looking back, right? Is because I have clients who are looking to buy businesses, and I am financially literate. I can read the financial statements. I can read the tax returns. I'm not a CPA, so I'm not gonna, give tax advice or anything like that. But I can certainly read, understand, digest, and try to point out a red flag. Which, if you got some financial folks who are just really in a hurry, or they're not looking for something to be wrong, they might miss it. It has only happened a couple of times in my career, but my clients are very thankful that I can read and understand financial statements and tax returns. Now, do I want to prepare those tax returns? No. Let's be clear. I'm not in the business of preparing tax returns, and I don't want to prepare tax returns at all. So God bless those folks who prepare tax returns, because I know the pandemic has been really rough on them. The PPP and the EIDL loans have put there's so much pressure on bookkeepers and CPAs over the last year and a half. I mean, they've been crazy busy.
And there's still a lot of it right now. People don't know behind that all this money that they passed, that they don't even say anything about it, but there's still a lot of money there.
There's still more money to get, yeah.
A lot. I didn't know. Before I came here, one of my friends said, hey, we're going to start a podcast together with other business owners. So she's like, hey, we got to bring the lawyer back.
Yes.
Because she's like, I have a friend that he told me about all this stuff, about the money stuff. And we want to help other business owners to know that they're not telling about this, but it's there.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't they not be telling when all these small businesses need help?
And even business owners that start out who aren't super financially literate, they have to catch on fairly quickly. They've got to figure, they might not understand everything relating to their tax return or their financial statements, but they generally know what's their top line number, what's their cost, and what's their bottom line number, right? They might not always understand all the breakdowns in between. So I could say if there's a couple of things that I really want business owners, other than getting a lawyer when they're starting out, it's important to get that CPA, the bookkeeper, the insurance agent. So a lot of folks, they go to their insurance agent, not trying to knock on insurance agents, but there's a ton of people who don't understand what their policy covers. And when something goes wrong and they call me and they tell me that something has gone wrong, I then kind of go and ask the responding question of, do you have a binder or policy for, let's say D&O, directors and officers, if they had an issue with somebody else?
Yeah.
Do they have, E&O, let's say they're an engineering company, they made a mistake, errors in emissions insurance, because mistakes happen, right? Even business interruption insurance, which can be hard to make a claim on. The deductibles are really, really high. So a lot of folks, or their business has been hacked and they don't have cybersecurity insurance. So I'm not saying that everybody should just go buy all the binders, all the policies of insurance, but when things go wrong, one of the questions I do respond back with is, do you have insurance? What's your policy? Have you contacted your agent? Because if there is insurance, number one, that makes everybody's job a little easier when something goes wrong.
Yes.
Because it's not necessarily someone's fault,
no.
Right? I mean, your house can flood. Doesn't mean you're at fault, but your damn glad when you have flood insurance. It's not very fun to deal with.
Get it now. We're about to get the hurricanes.
FEMA sucks. We're just gonna throw that out there. FEMA sucks.
Hope you're not watching FEMA.
But they suck to deal with, and they drag their feet, and it takes forever, and you're dealing with just another government agency. And, you end up having to front a lot of money if you really want your house fixed. But at the end of the day, when you get the check back from FEMA, maybe like a year or two later, you're really glad you got the check. And if you didn't have that flood insurance, no check was going to be sent to you, right? So, most insurances that are not FEMA, right, you're getting a check relatively quicker than FEMA. So really knocking on FEMA today.
Right.
But it is an important, thing to mention is when things go wrong, and it's not really an if, it's a when. You have coverage. And so many business owners don't even know what they have. And that's what insurance agents are for, right?
Yeah.
They don't even know their rights. That's what lawyers are for. They don't know their taxes. That's what accountants are for. But it's still important for business owners as they grow into their entrepreneurial roles is to understand whether they want to or not, is to understand some of these key components of what does a business tax return look like, or what does a standard insurance policy look like? Am I being oversold, undersold? You need to know if you're paying for something you don't need, right? Let's say you're a business and you have absolutely no computers whatsoever, which in this day and age is probably few and far between. But I'm sure there are some businesses out there, they don't have much computers, or they don't do anything on the computers that they have, and yet they bought cybersecurity insurance.
Oh man!
Right? It needs to match your business, and so it's not terribly common that I've come across a business where the insurance really doesn't match up. More likely than not, I find that maybe the business owner decided to tell the agent to not have the insurance. But even if you look at your lease, like let's say you have a commercial lease, your commercial lease is going to have provisions relating to insurance. And it's going to say that you have to carry a minimum amount of general liability insurance. Or if you're in the construction industry, there's typically provisions relating to insurance for you to do that kind of work. So maybe especially larger jobs.
Yes.
Larger jobs are going to require more insurance, and that's where people start cutting corners. Is they start scaling their businesses, they grow, and so having a nice checkup, an annual checkup, is a really good idea, and look at everything, right? Not just your contracts. So one of the things I've been telling folks is, okay, so you had maybe a contract arrangement pre-COVID, and then maybe you've adjusted the arrangement during COVID, so it looks a little different. But now you've got clients or vendors or suppliers that are ramping up, and they want to go full speed again.
Ooh.
But it's still important to go back to that contract and make sure that it's matching up with what you're doing now, right? Because when they originally engaged you, you might have had one scope of work. And in the middle of the pandemic, you might have had a different scope of work. And then now, I'm going to call this post-pandemic, but we are definitely not post-pandemic yet. The Delta variant is like spreading through all the schools, and it's just doom and gloom right now.
Now it's getting the kids, right?
It's getting the kids. I know. Oh my gosh. And that's the thing is, before, like, the kids weren't getting really, they weren't getting severe cases, and now like left and right, I'm hearing about kids not only getting it, but getting it really, really sick and having to get hospitalized. And so it's extremely concerning. But the vaccines aren't authorized for kids under 12 yet. So
that's what
I'm
my
hopeful
question.
that they can, I don't know. I'm not a medical professional. I'm not a scientist. So I'm just hoping that maybe they can roll out some stuff for the kids, or some of these medications that they treat COVID with are really strong medications, and I don't know what the impacts of those are on kids either. By the way, I'm vaccinated, just in case anybody's asking. And it's not like I'm like pro-vaccine or anything. It's just
that's what my question. Like, what do you thought about that?
When you look at the statistics, I have ER bills are just really, really high, and the cost of all that. You can, even if you can look at it from a purely economic standpoint and say, I just really don't want to go to the hospital. I don't want to have to deal with an ER bill. Because even when you have insurance coverage, it's like, it's really painful when you get that bill and the bills in the mail. It's not just one bill. They just keep coming.
I know.
They just keep coming.
What?
And so especially for those folks who are uninsured or, they got bare minimum insurance, I can't stress enough is you don't want to put yourself in that position.
No, you don't.
Most bankruptcies that we see on the consumer side are due to medical bills. It's people trying to get out of their medical bills, trying to get them discharged.
Debt, right?
Yeah, they put themselves in. Don't put yourself in that position if you can help it, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just kind of speaking from an economic
standpoint
as opposed to like any kind of medical.
Oh no.
FSC or or anything like that is why put yourself at risk for financial ruin if you can help it and so anyway, I digress.
No, you're good. Yeah, I just wanted to, we went out a little bit of topic, but I mean, we're living on it right now, and all of this stuff, we're seeing it through the kids. And I just saw a picture today before we came in that the kids were all a bunch, in there, and I was like, one of my friends from Katie, a business owner, she was like, "Whoa, what is this?" And like, do I gotta get my kid out or put her in a different school? So I was like, it's too much in the head,
Yeah, it's a lot on the schools. We're now seeing schools, maybe they're shutting down for 2 weeks and becoming online. And it was like we barely started the semester.
Homeschool.
Yeah, these kids really belong in school. They need the structure.
They do.
Especially the young ones. Maybe not the old ones.
But there's some
personal opinions out on this one.
Yeah.
But I think the little kids need structure. Oh, yeah. They don't really know the way that things are supposed to be, and there's so much that they learn in a school system from a social standpoint, like in a line, learning how to be in a line, learning to raise their hand, learning to respect the teacher. And there's just a lot of things there from a society.
I don't know if I'm wrong, if they're gonna hate me.
I'm not like anti-homeschool.
No, me neither.
I think that the kids.
No, they do. They need to.
They need that structure when they're younger, and so it's.
Because I have friends that I met that the kids never went to school. They did homeschool, and the kids liked it. But I mean, like I said, it's half and half. People want to go this way.
Sometimes it's a good fit for the kid, and there's not a problem there.
But the other things they want to be around people.
One size fits all.
Yeah.
And right now you've got a lot of parents who both parents are working.
Yes.
And they don't really have somebody at home to watch the kids, and so the kids are just kind of doing whatever.
Yeah.
I don't think there's bad parents out there, but I think it's really stretching parents thin. Stretching a lot of parents thin, and you got a lot of women who dropped out of the workforce too.
Right now, it's a lot nurses
of women
too.
Dropped out of the workforce, and I don't know.
We can talk about that because we can get in another
own box.
Yeah, that's another box.
About women's role in that household and whether that's appropriate.
So boom, 2025. Miss Colleen, did you get married? Did you have kids?
Yeah,
for the 10 years.
So I'm married. Don't have any kids yet.
Okay.
I'm married, and shout out to my husband David. He's a civil engineer, and he works hard, and we've built a really great life together. I actually met him back when I was 18.
Oh, okay.
So we've been together a really long time now. He was with me. Yeah, he was with me all through college. We had a long distance through law school because law school on the East Coast, and I don't know why he stuck with me. I don't know why I stuck with him, but we made it work.
It worked.
And I tell people now, when you meet somebody that young, it's kind of like the timing really isn't the greatest in your life, right? To be meeting somebody that young, you got. Why take on all those life responsibilities so soon?
Yes.
You get the rest of your life to be a responsible adult. Go have some fun. Go to college. Have some fun.
Is he older?
He is, yeah. So he was born in 1987. Yeah.
So you're not, too far apart.
Oh, he's going to kill me. I think it's 88.
So he's like kind of my age?
Jeez.
I'm 85.
So
I'm 35.
He's going to kill me for that one if he's watching this. Because we went over to the Houston Museum of Natural Science many years ago, and it had this little platform thing that you got to play with, and in order to in order to go to like the next step in the little interface, it asks you what your birth date is, and I kept putting in the wrong birthday for him. and so he will not let me live this one down.
Oh,
He's always
man.
telling me how I don't know his birthday.
You should tell him, hey,
I
it's
think
okay.
I just said the wrong year, and I caught myself, and he's gonna be like, "Hi, you still don't know my
You still
birthday."
don't.
Because he's 1 year older than my sister. My sister was born in '89, so it means he's 88. And of course, I said 87.
I know.
Sorry, David.
We'll cut this part.
That never happened. Never happened.
He's probably like that. Oh my God, when she gets home.
He's one of those types of people, like if Facebook sends him a notification that I'm live, he's absolutely watching.
Oh, then he is watching
He's
it.
gonna call me as I'm driving home, and he's like, "You got it wrong."
All these years?
He's never gonna let me live this one down.
Oh man. Oh, that is cool.
But yeah. So back to what we were saying.
Yes.
Is that you gotta get you gotta get an annual checkout, just like you do for your house or even your kids when they go back to school, right? Is that it's like everybody needs an annual checkup. So an annual checkup for your business is reviewing the policies, making sure that they fit what you're doing, reviewing your contracts, making sure that they fit with what you're doing, reviewing your bookkeeper and CPA and make sure that you're on track. Is there something that they need, or are there processes that you need to improve? Is there a way that you can streamline whatever you're doing from an operations standpoint? That's not always possible.
So this is my last
question. This is a good part of where you can make goals. They need to come from something.
Yes.
And the annual checkup is a good
something
place.
that came up before we even finished. I was like, maybe all of this small business owners, like the startups, that they're maybe, not halfway, maybe third way, but they're doing all right. What about them? Like, oh man, I totally forgot my question.
Well, I think I know where you're going with this, right? Is when you're a small business, you do have to cut a lot of corners, especially when you're starting out.
Yeah.
And that's
I remember.
That's in part why the checkup is so good, because as you're growing, you can go ahead and add on some of the pieces that you were leaving behind.
Like
right?
the bookkeeper.
If you never circle back and make sure you put that back in place that you originally wanted, I mean, it's easy to forget. It's so easy to forget, right?
So I remember
you're doing a million things for your business, and none of them are really reviewing your insurance policies.
So what would be the first thing? Like, say, like I remember the question, like would I get a bookkeeper first? Like when you're starting and you're like, okay, I can go to the next step.
So
Should I?
Bookkeeper first, then the CPA, because the CPA you need for the tax return piece. The bookkeepers don't generally want to do all the tax pieces. We need the bookkeeper first, so that when it's time to go turn everything over, you can have the bookkeeper then turn over everything to the CPA and say, look, it's nice and pretty and it has a little bow on it, and it's ready for you. And that also means that you're paying the CPA less money when everything is nice and tidy. Right?
You heard that?
You don't spend less money on the CPA. We're love CPAs, but CPAs don't really want to be bookkeepers, and they don't have to be spending time cleaning up your business either. So a lot of CPAs end up referring clients to bookkeepers because they both don't want the work, and it's also just it's so much of a mess. They just don't want to deal with it, right? They can go bill a higher rate to somebody else and do what they actually wanted to do, which is do tax returns, as opposed to cleaning up someone's mess.
I thought you were going to say that they want to play golf.
No, the bookkeepers are both there to clean up the mess and prevent a mess, right? So the sooner you can get a bookkeeper in there, the better. And a lot of people think, oh, well, QuickBooks is so easy, I can do it myself. That's one of those things you realize that even if you can do it yourself, it's one of the first things that you should start delegating. Right? Because you didn't go to school to be an accountant, unless you're an accountant. Unless you're starting an accounting firm, and you have that knowledge, and that's great and everything. But my time is best used, as an attorney, right? My time is there's only so many hours in the day, and my time is best used, billing at an attorney rate, or doing business development, or spending time with you. And the best use of my time is not sitting in front of QuickBooks pulling my hair out because something will balance. as much as I like, making things balance, and I like numbers. I'm an attorney who likes numbers, so that's unusual. But
it's so funny because I like numbers too, and I hated math. And now, like, I look at numbers, I'm like, okay, this don't make no sense. And I'm like, but wait, when I was in high school, I was almost failing all my math classes.
Yeah.
And now it's like,
gosh.
it's like I gotta look
Now
at
it's
numbers. Like,
it could have been just brain development.
maybe.
Yeah, I found that like when I learned algebra and calculus, it made a lot more sense the older I got. Like my brain just was able to.
Yeah, because I was in those classes, like, what do I gotta? I was telling the teacher, what do I need this for? I still remember.
You're not wrong with computers. And look, all the work now.
And look at now, it's like, well, first, I need to know what's my income that I'm making right now. Because if I want to make this,
so your top dollar,
yes,
your bottom dollar, and then you know your cost.
All of that stuff, the cost, the
stuff,
profit,
like,
what's going in and out. Do I need to buy this? Should I buy it later? Can you afford it? All of that stuff is like, when I tell people, it's like, how do you know all of this?
There's a lot of financial literacy issues. No, I'm gonna throw my friends under the bus. These are my personal friends. We go to trivia every week at Flying Saucer, and so one of the questions yesterday, they had a category of stocks, and I was one of the few people at the table who knew what the P/E meant, which is to price to earnings ratio. And that's kind of shocking to me, not because I don't think my friends trade stocks or anything, but from a financial literacy standpoint, it's a pretty basic concept that you should understand when investing money. And I mean, so many people have IRAs and 401ks and investments, and they need to know kind of some key high level information as to how to determine whether a stock is a good investment. And some people just rely on financial advisors or their friends or stock tips, and I mean, we've all done it.
YouTube.
We've all done it. YouTube, Motley Fool.
That is true.
Some article you read online, there's like a million reasons why people invest in a particular stock, right? And I think that's great. That's part of what makes America great. Is there's a sucker born every day. They'll put $1 and invest it in a company that totally won't.
Get your Bitcoin, guys. Get your Bitcoin.
Take off. I think Bitcoin long term is going to turn into something. Once the institutions know how to handle it, and they're starting to grasp. The larger institutions are starting to really grasp the Bitcoin and the Bitcoin compliance pieces. And so I do get clients who tell me, should they get into the Bitcoin space now? And it's not that I'm anti-Bitcoin. It's just I kind of tell them, at the point where the institutions are really involved, the legal piece is also going to be cleared up quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Right now it's quite muddy, and you can get in a lot of trouble if you don't really know what you're doing. So the income that you're making via Bitcoin, that's still income. You still got to declare under your tax return, right? So this is where people get in trouble, is they make a lot of money on Bitcoin, and then they're going to forget to pay the tax man. And then, the IRS, and then, it's going after some of these Bitcoin places.
It's the biggest mafia, IRS.
Yeah, don't forget, that's income too. Otherwise, you have to call one of these tax attorneys that have a criminal practice.
Oh, yeah.
they're mafia. The mafia attorneys clean up your mess, because you really don't want to, especially if you're making just a killing on Bitcoin, or if you're running your whole business through Bitcoin. Which, again, I'm not going to knock it. I understand Bitcoin and the blockchain.
It's like, do your homework first.
But if you are going to do that, just understand that you may have additional compliance. And that's the thing, is kind of people go into it and they think, oh, it's a free-for-all. There's not really any compliance. This is great. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, no. Not quite. It's kind of like when PayPal originally came out. And PayPal was a ton of fun, like on eBay. It wouldn't even charge you tax.
No.
It didn't make a distinction of whether you were an individual or a business.
I remember that.
These days, when you go to set up a PayPal account, it's asking a lot of questions.
A lot. Yeah.
And it's making sure that you're not using your individual account for business purposes and all this other stuff.
Because I have PayPal too.
Because you may need to collect tax.
Yeah, somebody were paying me for that, and that's I'm like, what the? They took all this money from me. Like, what the tag? Because I used to not use it anymore.
This is kind of the same concept of when I talk to folks about Bitcoin. I was like, remember when PayPal was like kind of back in the day when it first started? There was a lot of fraud. There was a lot of free-for-all going on, and it was great. I mean, it was great if you were wanting to not use your personal credit card to buy something on eBay or something like that. I mean, it was great because you had PayPal in between you. Like, they were an intermediary. Back in the day when the internet was super sketch and buying something from a place that you've never heard of and nobody's ever heard of.
Amazon.
Right? That was back in the day before even Amazon was sketch.
Yeah, nothing but books.
Amazon was sketch. And there was a time, that's the thing, is there was a time where Amazon was sketch, there was a time where eBay was new.
Yeah.
And it was just something that we like heard about, and then we went and checked it out.
Man.
And, you know, maybe there was like a 50-50 shot about whether what you paid for actually came in the mail. And then these days we have the issue of, did it come from China? Like, you buy something on Amazon, sometimes it's like, it's like,
it says in the box
we
though.
call Wish.
Wish, there's that.
Right, you buy something on Wish, you're like, there's a 50-50 shot whether it's going to show up either in 2 weeks or like 10 weeks from now.
Yeah, but it says when you buy it in Amazon, it says the little box made in China. But you get it in 2 days.
Yeah, Amazon's pretty good these days.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not knocking Amazon and eBay now, but back in the day, right, in the 90s, you know, if you used your credit card online, chances are you were going to get a breach on your credit card. Like, let's be honest. So when PayPal came out and acted as that intermediary and started reducing some of that risk, I think that's when online shopping really started becoming more safe to do.
And then boom, it blew up. E-commerce.
For people who are not born in the 90s, this is
yes.
I'm kind of educated. This is history of the internet and
the internet,
shopping
yes.
right here. Which was, it all started out with really sketchiness, and people had to have faith that this was the future.
Right.
So I know, but the same thing with Bitcoin is that I do think that Bitcoin
it's the beginning. I think this is scratch.
This is the beginning of it, and even telling young people. I know you mentor young folks, but a lot of people see Elon Musk and Tesla now. They don't really have a concept of his first venture, or at least the first venture that anybody really remembers, or the one he made his fortune on.
But he started PayPal. Yeah, PayPal. He sold it.
I know, but everybody, young people now, they look to Elon Musk and they think of him as, you know,
Tesla. That's it.
Tesla making the cars,
rockets,
going into space. And I think that's amazing, right?
And now he's building the robot.
All the things that he's doing. You know, he doesn't look like Dr. Evil like Jeff Bezos. Let's go to space.
Let's go. Now did you see what is happening? Like, now they went to space, and then Tesla, and then the Virgin guy. So it's like,
he's older though. That's the thing. Is like, I was surprised that he wanted to go to space, because he, for the longest time, it kind of looked like he didn't age, but he's actually quite much older than like,
what was his name? I forget his name. I just know him by the Virgin. I
think is his last name Brand?
Oh man, I can't remember.
No, I keep thinking Russell Brand, but that's not him.
No. Russell Branson. Russell Branson? No, that's.
Richard Branson.
Sorry, Russell.
Yes, Richard Branson's actually quite old now.
He owns a couple of islands. Hey, come on! If you're watching this, we want to go.
No, I was really surprised that he went to space, because I don't think if I was like his doctor, I'd clear him at his age to go to space.
And he was the first one.
And maybe he was just like, I don't care. You know, I'm going into space. Good for him. Good for all of them. And the reason why is because NASA really hasn't been that well funded in the last number of years. And so I still want to, as much as I don't want to see like billionaires be able to go to space, right? There's a part of that that's a little, you know, off-putting, right? Whereas you got a bunch of billionaires deciding that instead of saving the world and saving hungry children, they can do much better things with their money. But at the same time, I'm like, well, this could be your tax money. Like, would you rather,
Jeff Bezos said it.
rather be like your tax money, or would you rather be him just spending his personal money pushing the envelope on science? And I've kind of come to the terms of, I don't really want to pay any more taxes, so if he wants to go push the edges of space, go for it. This is my very practical economic response once again of, I don't really want to pay more taxes. I don't think anybody wants to pay more taxes.
No.
So if Jeff Bezos is gonna or Elon Musk wants to privately fund something that taxpayers would have otherwise funded, I know that they're getting government contracts too, and there's money that's going to them from that direction too. But at the same time, you know, if they wanna spend their own personal money that way, and it would have otherwise been tax dollars, I'm for it.
Yeah.
Because we would have long term we would have had to pay for it anyway.
Yeah.
We would have all had to pay for it. It's just assuming that was a priority from the legislature to
Yeah.
fund that. So, but yeah, lots of young kids have no idea that Elon Musk started PayPal and then did a nice, good old cash out there. Good for him. And then
Then he
the
started.
rest of it is really history.
And what he's
He's
making.
still he's part of the I think he's part of the energy storage space race too. I call it a space race. It's not a space race. The energy storage race. Everybody's trying to figure out how batteries can last longer. How can you save energy? How
That's
can you
true.
store energy?
Store,
whether
yes.
it's like from a wind turbine or from the ocean or
the sun.
Is it from a nuclear fact? Anything, right?
That's true.
How can you store that energy? And for the longest time, that has been quite the engineering feat. There are some things that they just can't overcome. There's only so much that they can store. I think lithium batteries helped unlock quite a bit, but there's still a lot of a lot of work to go.
Oh yeah.
And so I like that Elon is in the middle of that. You've got other big companies who are on that. I call it a space race, but it's again truly not a space race. It's just that technology, and so I'm really, really hoping that they are able to unlock some of that technology.
And I think it
I
will.
don't think they're quite there yet, but I'm hopeful. I mean, this is something that's been, brewing for decades now.
And but it's gonna happen. Technology is moving so fast. But like we said, he's just working on the robot now. That's the new thing, the AI. We know that AI, it's gonna. I mean, we've seen the movies.
All of our jobs.
Well, that's what I tell people that. But you already see it. You go to Walmart, you go to these stores. I mean, the lines are packed. They only have like 3 people working. Like, well, okay.
That's Walmart just deciding the only one.
Target and or you go to McDonald's and all this.
I don't think Target ever really had that many cashiers, but Walmart really cut down on their cashiers.
Yeah.
And it's noticeable, especially on days where people get their paychecks, like the 15th, the 16th, the 30th, the 31st, the 1st of the month. You can really feel it in Walmart. On days where people get their checks, especially in a down economy because people are living paycheck to paycheck.
I know, and then the restaurants, most of the restaurants now you can go and you don't have to talk to nobody.
Yeah,
like McDonald's, Jack in the Box, all of these places. I mean, they're still. I mean, all of that stuff is gonna pick up. But people need to see that, because they're like, no, man, we're going to a time where technology is getting better and better. So people like, if I can get one robot to do this, well, I don't need to pay that guy. I don't pay that.
Some people who say it's even going to happen to attorneys. So there is such thing as LegalZoom out there and Rocket Lawyer and all these other places. And I'll say you get what you pay for, and sometimes you actually pay more and you get less.
Yeah.
I have seen that before, where someone paid like a service to go form their entity, and they actually paid way more than they would have even paid me, and I would have been twice as fast. And here they are weeks later, and they're like, "Where's my entity? It's not formed. It got hung up. It got lost in the system."
You're right about that, yeah.
And then they come to me, and they're like, "Can you fix it?"
Can you fix it? Is it too late?
And a lot of people, it's kind of like too little, too late. So especially I will say this: when you start a company, it's not enough that you formed the entity. Especially in an LLC, or if you have a business partner, you really need to put a company agreement in place, some kind of partnership agreement in place regarding how you're going to split profits, what happens when someone dies, what happens if someone's incapacitated, what happens, does your spouse have any rights in relation to that interest? And so there's just a lot that goes into it, and the legislature thought that they would be funny is not the right word, but they thought that if they just gave all the business owners all the flexibility, that it would be a good thing, and that would make Texas extremely business friendly. Well, the business friendly part doesn't really come from the legislature leaving huge gaps in our statute. So there's a statute called the Texas Business Organizations Code, and while it does fill in some gaps, especially when you're trying to do a material transaction of substantially all of the assets of the company, right? A meaningful transaction. It doesn't even allow for the removal of a member, like in an LLC. So if your business partner went off the deep end for whatever reason, you can't even remove them from your company. You're going to have to go and perhaps go in front of a court, go in front of a judge, and get that taken care of. And it's just a waste of resources for everybody involved, because you could have, number one, had a provision that allowed for removal. Instead, there's reasons why I'm sure that they put it, the default is that there isn't a removal, but you can easily override the statute with a company agreement, and you can fill in all of the gaps. So when a client tells me I want to go without a company agreement or without a partnership agreement, I say stop. Even if you have something, it is still better than nothing. So when someone says all I got is this LegalZoom agreement, I'm like, okay, number one, it's really not worth more than the paper that it's printed on. But number two, it's still better than nothing, but it's still not going to accomplish all the goals that you thought it was going to. It's not going to fill in all the gaps, right? So I'm not like, I don't want anybody to think I'm like anti-LegalZoom.
No.
It serves a function, it serves a utility in the market, and I think that's great, because not every business attorney wants to be forming businesses all day, every day, right? I mean, that's just really routine work that a computer can really be doing. But at the same time, the one-size-fits-all LegalZoom agreement isn't gonna cut it when a business dispute happens. Unfortunately, I wish I could say differently. But most lawyers, business lawyers, don't complain so much about LegalZoom, because LegalZoom spins off more work for us than it costs us, because it then spins off business litigation work, right? I mean, I'm pulling back the curtain quite a bit, and I'm saying, well, what you don't pay on the front end, you're having to pay for on the back end, and you're having to pay a lot more on the back end. A lot more on the back end to clean up the mess. And so it's like, you could have just invested
at the beginning.
You could have just invested just nominally a little more and used an attorney to meaningfully, craft. It doesn't even have to be custom necessarily. It just has to fill in all the gaps that the statute leaves. But you can, use a real attorney. Same thing with like CPAs, bookkeepers,
like
delegating. Right? I mean, they have TurboTax and these other online software things. But when you have something really special to be going on your tax return, well, the computer,
that's why I don't
software is good for somebody who's like a one-size-fits-all type of client, right, or customer, right? Let's say you're just a everyday person and there's nothing special about your situation. Like, nobody's died, you haven't bought a piece of property, you don't have a business, or you're just a person who makes, average Joe, has a job at the factory, and then, like, there's nothing to your tax return, right? There's
it's just regular.
All the lines really don't apply to you, all of the exceptions. There's no, follow to page 2 of so-and-so packet of manual, right? No C instructions. There's none of that, where there's a lot of guessing, but where you do have value and where, your business has grown, and suddenly you might have circumstances in your business where, like, okay, you bought a big piece of equipment this year. Well, it needs to be depreciated now, right? And so, not saying the software can't handle some of these things, but having a real person,
it's way better.
Give you advice, it can be very meaningful, because they may be pointing out deductions that you're not taking. Right? Yeah. And that they pay for themselves in that instance. I'm a big fan of CPAs who find ways to pay for themselves. Same thing with lawyers, is if you're a good lawyer, really, we're paying for ourselves. The thing is, the client may not realize that we're paying for ourselves because we're preventing a mess on the back end.
On the back end, yeah.
Right? And so, people who shortchange it on the front when they go set up their business, and especially where they have business partners and business people that they've never done business with before. Yeah. Like, they're kind of going in blindly. It's like when you go get a dorm roommate and it's potluck, and you've never met any of the people.
No.
Chances are one of those folks is not going to really work out.
No, yeah, right? That's very right.
Maybe they've never lived away from home. They've never had roommates before. Suddenly they like the air conditioning hot, you like it cold. No. Like, hilarity ensues, right, of the mismatch of folks. And so a lot of people, same thing happens with businesses, is you get a whole group of folks in, they say, oh, this is a great idea, I'm going to pitch in. Well, then life happens and somebody likes it hot, somebody likes it cold, right? And there's a business dispute. It becomes an if, it's not an if, it's a when situation.
It's a when, yes, like you said.
And then what are you going to do at that point? And a lot of people think everything's just hunky-dory in the beginning, and everybody gets the decorations up in their dorm. Everything is so fancy, they're like, oh, I'm so excited to live with you, and you're so excited to live with me, and then school starts, the parents are gone, and then suddenly, you're just upset because that roommate won't go to sleep, right? Or that roommate is gone and shows up at 2 a.m. in the morning drunk and lays on the bed and then goes on the wrong bed, right?
Yeah.
Real stories, right?
That's true. Real stories. Yeah.
Or you be like me and accidentally catch popcorn on fire in the microwave in the
Hey,
dorm,
I think that happened.
and the fire department has to come at midnight. And it's 0 degrees outside. And
Oh man.
I don't think anybody was happy with me that day.
No one.
But that's the thing is that if you think of business partners, especially ones you don't know, kind of like when you go and get a dorm or you have a living situation with somebody, is somebody they're just not going to work out, and you need to be prepared of what's your backup plan when this doesn't work out. I mean, right? Are you just going to stick with it and say, well, we're making a lot of money? A lot of times I see where they're being successful and they're making a lot of money. It's good, but as soon as things sour, right, with the pandemic, some things really soured and exposed inequities in partnership relationships where you got one guy who maybe funded a bunch of money, and then you got another guy who worked and put in a lot of sweat equity, and then maybe they have to pivot because of the pandemic, and I saw a lot of, there were some amicable partnership splits because of the pandemic, and then there were also some not so amicable partnership splits where when the inequity is so obvious, usually someone is like, okay, yeah, I can't ignore this anymore. So the pandemic exposed a lot of those inequities, but from an attorney perspective, what I see in the market is when things are going good, people will put up with a lot.
That's true.
They'll put up with people that they don't like. Even business partners, even employees, even contractors, vendors, suppliers. But when things are not so great, cut away. They want to not just trim the fat, but they're like, they find a reason to get rid of that person or try to push them out or kind of renegotiate the deal and say this isn't working. And so if you have a partnership or a company agreement, there could be mechanisms in there. What we call buy-sell mechanisms, where you could buy your partner out.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. One of my friends did that.
I can buy it out at a predetermined price point, or maybe the fair market value, or you can put whatever you want in there.
I have a friend that did that. They bought him out, and they gave him $1.5 million, and he got out. They didn't want to be. There was 3 partners.
You might also be able to force them to sell too.
No, yeah, it was. He told me the story. So
some of the provisions in these company agreements is that if you found a third party buyer, you could force your partner to sell, right? He can't just hold out. And so there's a lot of different provisions that are fun that we can throw in there. We call it drag along, tag along provisions, and force. If you want to cash out and you want to cash out big, and you got a buyer. Good. I mean, good for good for everybody.
Good for everybody. Yeah, when it's.
But you find that some people have different timings in their life, right? You might have an older person who this is their last hurrah, their last business that they're investing in, and then you have a younger person who has a lot of energy and they partner up. Mm-hmm. Well, that younger person isn't necessarily going to be ready to exit, but the older person, it's not. There's nothing against all the older folks, but they're hitting retirement faster, and so the timing doesn't always match up between the two partners of a third party sale. Where the guy who's got a ton of energy and he's young and he thinks and everything's going really well. He's like, why should I sell? I can still put in a ton of energy in all of this. I can still grow it. I can still scale it. Like why sell now other than just to get money, right? And some of them maybe just want to take the money and run. And then you got the older partner. So especially when you have large age differences in the partners, you have differing timing of when they want to exit. So it's important to have that conversation of what is the exit plan? What is the point of when there is there one? Do you want to exit? Number one, because some people don't ever want to exit.
They want to keep it.
I mean, sometimes they want to pass it on to their kids, and that's great, right? But it's not something that people are discussing with their business partners when they're entering into a relationship, in a business relationship. And so this is really big, important. It's
It
like
is.
when you discuss whether you're going to have kids before you got married, right? This is one of those topic items.
Right, yeah, I was about to say
Before you
that.
do a business relationship, make sure you guys are on the same page about exit. And sometimes they're on the same page when they entered in the business and then they got into it. And then,
And you're like, oh no.
and then they changed their mind. And you know, that's so be it. But if you have a company agreement or any kind of agreement in place between the partners, you're going to have additional mechanisms that can allow for buyouts, or you know, you can sell to a third party or force them to sell, or you know, sell at a particular price. And so should something happen, you've got, I mean, sometimes it's not a bad situation. Sometimes someone just, you know, they wake up one day and say, I'm not happy, I don't really want to do this anymore, right? I want to move on to another venture. It has nothing to do with the value of the business, the profitability of the business. Has nothing to do with their business partner. They just woke up one day and said, you know what, I'm just tired of doing this and I want to do something else. I want to move into real estate. I want to go own a bunch of apartments. I want to go start yet another business that is completely unrelated.
Or invest in a startup.
I want to, maybe they want to go become a teacher. Maybe they've got something else that they want to do. Maybe they want to go travel the world. So it's not, I don't want to say it's always a bad thing, but it's an important component that you should address on the front side.
Yes,
not just disputes, but you know, that exit and what that looks like, and say, you know, if let's say I got disabled or whatever, and you know, it's not fair that you'd be doing all the work. Let's provide a mechanism for you to go ahead and buy my family out. So that you can, buy me out so that you can continue the business on while, you know, I'm in the hospital or, you know, recovering or dying or what have you.
That's true.
Right? Not all of these situations are horrible situations.
No, it's examples.
I'm giving you a lot of examples.
Well, I like that. Yes.
There's a lot of things to consider, and when you just kind of take something off the internet, you are missing out on some components that you would have otherwise addressed.
The relationship.
Right? It's kind of the same reason why, you know, when you get engaged, you should have some counseling. And it's not because they think that you're a bad match.
No.
It's because they want to make sure that you've considered all the things that you should consider before you get married.
Yeah, because they're gonna be asking you questions.
In the same city, like what, you know, are you compatible? Are you just rushing into this? How well do you really know the person? Do
you know that I'm working all these hours? I'm coming late. I'm not up with another woman. I'm, you know, all of these things. But it's true. You need to talk about that.
It's the same concept.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's the same concept with a lot of the things that apply to business. It's just people don't grow up in an environment where they have a family business or, you know, business at all, and so they're not really thinking in those terms. But some of the same big lessons that you learn in life, whether it's like the dorm or, you know, when you're selling, you should spruce up your house, right? It's all the same lessons. If you apply them to your business as well, and if you're able to make it transfer, some of those lessons transfer into managing a business, you're going to be better off. And so I hate to say it, but sometimes I preach to my clients, they get on a soapbox, and some of it's just really common sense stuff. And then they kind of realize,
yeah, you're right.
You know, oh, I wish I had thought about that in those terms. Or I wish, you know.
I wish, no, you should have.
Hindsight's 20/20, right?
Oh, yeah.
Or as one of our other friends, he says common sense just isn't so common, right? And so it's one of those things. And so a lot of people just want to jump head over heels into not just a marriage, but into a business relationship. They see money to be made, and they're like, "I'm there. I want to get in on the action." And I think that's great. I think it's great. I love seeing people get excited over transactions and business ideas, and some business ideas are better than others. I think anybody who's watched Shark Tank knows that one, right? Do you love Shark Tank or what?
Kids Shark Tank. Have you seen that? I've seen this.
I haven't seen the Kids Shark Tank.
No, it's not on TV. I saw it from school.
Oh.
Yeah, I gotta take it to that school.
I would love to watch a Kid Shark Tank.
Yeah, I didn't know that it was happening. It's in Sugar Land too. There's a school in Sugar Land that Miss Debbie, she does that with the kids.
All right, next time that
yes,
happens,
I'm gonna take you there.
Invite me, and I will.
I didn't even know about that. That's fun. Like,
that's
the little kids are like, you know.
Anybody can have a business idea. Even little kids can have.
And it was fun because it's like, oh no, your idea. I don't think it's. I mean, seeing kids telling you that and like, oh no, you need an angel investor. I was like, oh my god, I didn't even know about angel investors that much. And this kid know. Like when I had on podcasting, they were talking about the 6 pillars of success. I was like, I don't even know this spinach says, and they're 8 years old. I'm like,
excited that they're teaching that in the school.
yeah, that's what I saw that, and when I saw,
Yeah.
it, I said, I gotta get into this so other kids can see that they can do it too.
I mean, there's so many people who struggle with just balancing a checkbook.
Yeah.
Or the home ec class. It's just there's a lot of things that are lost on kids these days. They don't. I don't think they've ever taught business literacy in
No.
in schools.
I don't think they will.
I mean, that's certainly not when I went to school. But I mean, not even during my parents' time. I think they did do.
Even now, they're not doing that.
They did do quite a bit more practical things. They did have more like woodworking and mechanics.
Oh yeah,
That's something that
it got lost because it wasn't funded.
I think it was coming back a little bit. Even some of the music and arts, they get underfunded, and then things fall by the wayside. And then
I heard that there's something is coming over there in Katy. I think the school is already there, high school,
I mean,
where
you
it's.
see Fort Bend, they put together the Reese Center to teach kids, to be restaurant workers or hair salons. I think that engineering and architecture programs. I think you see some of it coming back. I think they realize
I hope that it stays.
There's a shortage of trades out there, and so some of the I think Fort Bend ISD in particular has been trying to shore up some of that and make sure the kids, if they don't want to go to college, at least they're getting into a trade. And so I will say, I think that was something that was lost, and I'm not an expert in any of that.
That's why when you said about back then,
I don't have a master's in education or a PhD in education, but I mean, then you look at how there's kind of a shortage of trades out there, and it's because somewhere along the line, it just that knowledge transfer was getting lost, and it wasn't happening. And so same thing happens in business. What I call business literacy is a lot of folks. Kids, they're not learning some of the common sense things that need to go along with setting up even a basic business, right? I think a lot of people understand what a DBA is, but then they misunderstand thinking that they have some legal protection, right? So we started this conversation talking about DBAs. I think DBAs can be great when you're first starting out, but you know how I said that 1 year checkup?
Yes.
Like if your business is taking off at that point, go ahead and spend the money and go get yourself an entity.
And it's right. That's what I like learning from like yourself and other business owners that they tell me the same thing. They always say 1 year, 1.5. Make sure that what you're making, don't overspend. If your $2,000 is rent, car, and everything, is it ready for you to move? You want to move to a house. Is it ready for you to 10x, 5x, the next thing? And I like that because
it's easy for me to sit on the soapbox and say you need this entity and it costs this much, right? And it's so easy for me to say that, but I mean, at the end of the day, people who are starting out, they start out with nothing. I mean, the DBA costs, it's some filing fee. It's pretty nominal. Yeah, it depends on which county you're in and whether you file with both the county and the Secretary of State. But in the grand scheme of things, they say, oh, well, this costs this much, that costs that much. And then it's just another way that they cut corners. So I'm not saying cutting corners is wrong. I'm just saying you got to circle back on it. Make sure that you when you get to the point where you can afford it,
you get it. Like
that you go ahead and you put it in place.
But that's what we need.
I'm very practical in that way. Very practical, and I think it's wrong to assume that everybody can afford to set it up the right way from the get go.
Yeah.
But whether it's from the insurance, whether it's the CPA, the bookkeeper, but just like anything else, you get what you pay for.
But this is why I try to do this because so other people that are bringing in other business owners that sit down and do the podcast, that we're giving that information, that I don't want you to be mad, but that okay, that's the price, and I cannot afford it, but I know I need to get to this, but to get to this, okay, I can do that. And as soon as I let me get it. But that information is there.
But you know that you need it.
Yes.
I think the part that there's a lot of folks, they don't know that they need a book.
Yeah. That's what I didn't know that stuff. None of that stuff. So what is this?
I learned this the hard way, and so I have a conversation. Every time I have a client who comes in, even if they're what I would consider a more sophisticated client, but they're a first-time business owner, right? First-time business owner. Maybe they're college educated. Everything. Just because someone's college educated does not ever mean that they know what it means to own a business, and so. I do sit down with them or I have a phone call with them and I say, look, these are the key components that you need to make sure that you get. You know, you don't feel like you can spring for them right now. You know, it is what it is, but you need to promise me that you're going to get these things in place within 1 year. And especially if you're working actively in this business, I mean, side hustles are
different.
a
But
little bit of a
at least
different
those side
story.
hustles turn to be business.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
You're gonna, at that point when it's a side hustle, you might kind of come up with more of like a revenue number.
Yeah.
As to like what revenue number are you going to go ahead and put all of the pieces in place, if you're dragging your feet on it. But really making sure that person knows, like, you need these components in place. I'm not trying to upsell you. I'm not trying to pass you on to my friend for them to do business with you. Right? That's not what's happening. It's more like, I see what it looks like when someone doesn't do this, and I'm trying to prevent a mess from happening, because you're otherwise going to not do it, and then you're going to come back to me and say, I've gotten myself into a jam. Can you help me get out of this jam with the IRS or the comptroller? Or, you know, I now have quite the mess of books, or I spent 5 hours, you know, they'll tell me I spent 5 hours in the middle of the night dealing with my QuickBooks, and I'm like, you know, you got to really sit down with them and say, look, it's not that QuickBooks is hard. Honestly, I think QuickBooks is pretty, you know, user friendly, but it's just not the best use of your time. Like, if they started a business to make widgets, I'm like, the best thing that they know how to do is make widgets, right? I mean, that's their bread and butter. That's how they, you know,
created that. Yeah.
They know what they're doing in that sphere. And I was like, it's not that you don't know what you're doing. It's just not the best use of your time. And you can go pay someone less per hour to go deal with that, and then they can be, if they're efficient at it, it's not a big cost.
No.
Right? So,
and even if it, like we said, even if it's a big cost, and we're like, would you want to wait?
But they
and
know what they're doing.
yeah,
right?
like I want to pay that big money, because if I don't, like you said, it's gonna be my fault in the back end. Oh my goodness!
Yeah,
now
ultimately you're responsible.
And then you pay more.
You might have the bookkeeper and the CPA, and you might have employees that work under you, but at the end of the day, as the business owner, I mean, you're responsible for having books and records in place, having, you know, payroll records in place and stuff like that, and just so there are additional responsibilities that come with owning a business, and it's more compliance related than anything. And so,
and you're helping a small business.
When I sit down with a client, I just kind of say, you know, if you want recommendations to folks, I'll give you a few. Otherwise, you know, make a list, and these are the things that you need to do, because at this point, I want you to, if you're cutting corners, I want you to knowingly know that you're cutting corners, as opposed to not really realizing that you're cutting corners, right? Because a lot of people, they're cutting corners and they don't even realize it.
No, what is better to tell them?
They're just trying to be cost savvy and trying to just.
I know everything. But then they're gonna come to you. I got a big mess. I'm a big mess.
I'll say right now, I don't know everything. I think anybody who thinks that they know everything, they're really in for it at that point, because they're gonna, you know, as soon as they run into issues, they're gonna get a rude awakening.
Oh yeah.
Of like folks who think that something will never. I specifically say this in restaurants, right, or restaurant clients.
Yes.
I was like, it's only a matter of time before someone, or a supermarket. It's only a matter of time before someone slips and falls. It's only a matter of time before someone gets burned on something. It's only a matter of time before, you know, maybe your kitchen catches fire, right? Or you have a grease fire of some you know, sign. You know, especially
it's like you said,
if it's a restaurant that has a lot of, you know,
the fryers and all that.
You know, there's a lot of things going on in that kitchen. We're not talking about a salada here. We're talking about, you know, big old fireballs in the kitchen.
Yes.
And one of the worst things I've ever seen is where someone opened up a restaurant in the shopping center and the fire spread.
Oh.
They had a fire in the kitchen, and the fire spread to the neighboring units of the shopping center, right? Because everything's connected in this retail strip center. And of course, the lease required insurance and a certain level of insurance. But guess what? I think somewhere along the line, they never got the insurance. So they held the bag individually on all of that. Like, the whole restaurant was burned up. The whole, like, I mean, the structural integrity of the shopping center was probably, you know, pretty bad at that point. I've also seen, you know, like a high rise with in Houston, and it caught fire, and it had a parking garage that was connected. It was like one of those, it was connected, right? So it was kind of, I don't know if it was like the parking garage was on the bottom floors and then the people lived on the top floors, or was just adjacent. I can't really remember. But a car caught fire inside the parking garage, and then it spread to a large part of the of that high rise where people were living. I don't know if it was condominiums, high rises, apartments, one of those types.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like, not saying everybody should just be paranoid.
I know. But it can happen.
But that's what attorneys are for.
Yeah.
Right?
And insurances.
Yeah, well, the thing is, you can have insurance, but you'd rather, even if your insurance was trying to deny you, you would rather fight with the insurance and sue the insurance company as opposed to just being, at the end of the day, holding the bag.
One more question before we even finish up.
Right? Even if you have to sue on a denial with the insurance company, at least you have someone to go after other than yourself.
I said that I have one more question before we I got another question. It's because this is all good. It's all value that we're giving. It's because I remember. So when you have an accident and they always say don't call the car crash, your insurance should call a lawyer instead of because you have an accident and the insurance. Oh, we're only giving you $500, but when you call a lawyer and you pay for the lawyer gets you more money.
Like severe crash. I mean, that's not my primary practice.
No. I know. It just came out because that happened to me a long time ago, and I did it. I went with a lawyer and instead of the insurance, and I got more money through. And it wasn't a bad car accident.
Especially if there's injuries, I could see an attorney being, meaningful in that context.
I just got hit in the back, and I mean, just a little. It wasn't.
Yeah.
But to me, I was like, hey, you know what? I want to go see what lawyer has.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you have injuries, I would say, call to an attorney and making sure you're documenting it properly.
Oh, yeah, everything.
Idea.
It was a young girl that hit me, so she was scared.
Oh
my God. I was like, I'm okay. And she was on the phone with daddy. And that was like a long time ago.
Usually you either want the police to come. I've heard these days it takes hours for the police to come to a car accident.
It does.
You end up sitting there for hours. If you happen to be in a jurisdiction where you can, get good police presence who'll come right away,
it does.
That would be great. It used to be that you could get someone out there.
Not anymore, man.
Yeah. So, but in the age of smartphones, I mean, that's the nice thing about smartphones is you can document everything really right away. You have kid stickers on your phone.
Not square.
We're gonna have a discussion about that after this podcast about why your phone has kid stickers. Okay.
Have a good day.
In this day and age, it used to be that you didn't have the ability to record or have immediate, more contemporaneous photos and documentation. And these days, there's dash cams that you can get.
Yeah, now you can record.
You have dash cams, and then you can
film the car.
You can film the accident. There's people that are filming accidents that they see, or drunk drivers. You ever see the videos of drunk drivers? It's not necessarily the police guy, policeman following the person. It's just another driver, and it's like a passenger, and they're taking the video.
They're taking the video,
of what's happening, and so there's just so much more that is it's just documented out
and it's
there.
right there.
I'm not saying the police aren't needed.
No.
They're absolutely needed, especially in severe crashes. But I don't want to say that your first call shouldn't be to an attorney. I mean, I would say that your first call should just be at least to notify the insurance agency that there's a claim that needs to be made. And get that claim going because
you have to get the claim. Yeah, you
got to open that claim. Make sure that they're aware of it so that they can start processing the insurance. And if this is your first time having an accident, right, making sure that you're exchanging insurance and that you're getting copies of that person, that you have insurance. You're getting a copy of that person's driver's license.
Picture.
And, but for first timers who are, they're freaking out. And they're
I know.
I'm sorry, right? And they're like, oh my gosh. And they're probably shaken up, but they're really not thinking clearly either about what they need to be doing. And so when you call the insurance company, especially the larger insurance companies, they are reminding you of the things that you need to go and collect from the other driver.
There. That was the only
that's
time
a good place to start, just from that perspective, before the other person parts ways with you.
I don't remember how it went. I just know that I did the claim, and I was, because I worked in the restaurant business at that time. So my friend, my general manager, his wife was a lawyer for that. So he's like, "Hey, you got the claim? Go to my wife. She can take care of plus the claim." And I was like, "Oh, okay, let me go." And I went in there, and I mean, she explained everything. I was like, "All right, you take care of it." And I was like, "Oh, okay." It's like that was the first timer.
Usually in like severe crashes and things like that, or where there's a lot of injuries, I mean, an attorney can be extremely meaningful. I think for minor accidents, I'm not sure that they justify their existence. Sorry to all my personal injury friends out there. One of the other things is if you think that you may be hurt, getting it documented sooner rather than later, which means it can mean that you need to go get an ambulance, or you need to go ahead and go to the ER. A lot of regular physicians, they don't want to handle the paperwork associated with car crashes, and so they force you to go to an emergency room to get that documented.
And then they send you over there.
This is our healthcare system at work. I think the last time I thought I had an injury, I learned that you really have to go to an emergency room to get it documented for any kind of injury, like that's considered from an accident. And I was like, I just thought I had some like tissue issues or something. Like I was a pedestrian and a car hit me at like 5 miles an hour or something. And so what I learned, though, I mean, now I'm just a regular person, just like everybody else at some point.
Yeah.
And I had never, encountered this before, and I didn't think that these were severe injuries. So I go to my regular doctor, and they're like, "No, we don't do the paperwork for that. You actually have to go to an emergency room." And so something that somebody should consider is, in terms of if they're thinking that they have a medical condition that is of the result of a car accident, getting that documented as contemporaneously as possible was very good. It's a good idea. And also considering where they're getting that medical documentation from, right? Because your doctor may not be able to handle it. Your regular doctor may say, I don't handle that compliance. I don't do that kind of paperwork. And you're like, what? You're like, why? I mean, there's, this is a really simple thing, right? Why can't you do this for me? And they're like, no, we don't handle that. And I didn't think the paperwork would be that hard, right? If you're just documenting that somebody dislocated their shoulder, something really simple, right? Something routine. They have bruises in a particular area, and so it's just something to consider when you're having that moment of just a really bad day. Is if you think that something has happened, just go ahead and go straight to. I'm not saying you have to jump in an ambulance because you got ambulance costs, but
$2,000.
Make sure you get yourself to a medical professional and one that can handle the paperwork properly for an accident. I'm not saying you have to in an emergency.
Yeah.
I don't know where.
Just do it yourself. That's another show.
Yeah. You better bring a doctor on here. I got some clients who are doctors.
Too much movies.
Want to come on here.
Too much movies, right? Okay, I got it.
Yeah, so that's just kind of a weird little quirk that I've learned over time. Is just if you really do think that something has happened along those lines, even if it's not immediately obvious, get yourself as contemporaneously to a doctor as possible, because that's going to make your case stronger. That's just one of those things I picked up. But that's not my primary practice area. That's also something they don't teach you in law school.
No, they
don't teach that in law school at all.
Learning new things. Yay. So what do you want to finish up? Just tell the audience, because I know we went out for an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah, we're having fun today.
But it's all good because you give me ideas, because we went to so much that next time I'm not going to do it live. This is going to be like exclusive for my other channel that I have.
Oh, okay.
Like, so we can just talk specific. Yeah. Specific. It's the same channel, but you can create different things on it, And it's because these things can go to series. Because we talk and my brain is already saying, okay, we talked about this and I got it, but my brain has so much information right now that I'm like, oh my God, I can help somebody out.
Are there any questions?
I don't think nobody had any questions, but it's okay because the people that didn't come in today, they are working because we did it early. It's 4:00, but they already told me, it's like, hey, as soon as we get out from here, we're going to watch it. So I told them, you'll be able to see it. So I'll share it to you. So if they ask those questions, you can go back and so
I'm happy to follow up
you
with
can
those,
answer that.
and if it's not my primary practice area, I have no problem getting them connected with somebody. A lot of times people think that they can ask me employment law questions. Employment law belongs with an employment lawyer.
Yep. Oh yeah.
But yeah, to the extent that there's any kind of questions, and if I can answer it for them, get connected with them. Happy to try to get to the bottom of whatever it is.
Yeah, and
obviously your mind is.
I know, yeah, man. This is good because I wanted just pure value and that's what we were talking about at the beginning. Now that everybody that I'm bringing in is just like at the beginning, it was just like, yeah, we were giving value, but we're talking a lot about here, and I was like, now I want to implement what they do. Because that's what they're here. You're a lawyer and you do this. I want them to know that this. So when they watch the replay and they share this, it gets shared. Then other people are gonna be like, oh, okay, I didn't know about that. And then they go in and type it. And they go in and share. Because that's when the most thing happens after this, the replay, and then they ask questions. And I like that. And that's how I'm like the big stick spirit guy when I'm helping him do the YouTube. The same thing. He's like, I told him about the series. He's like, oh my God, this is good. So he came out with all the liquors and the beer. And he's like, I'm going to talk about.
Sponsor right
And they're like, I want to talk about not only but I want to talk about the other whiskey, the how did they started the beer. So I was like, I gave them just a thing, and he already did his whole. I was like, whoa! He showed it to me. I was like, dude, this can go on and on. This is content for years. And he's like, thank you, because I didn't even know how to create a YouTube channel, and I helped him create it, and now he uploaded the first 3 videos. So I'm very thankful. I'm happy that I taught him that, and now he's excited to create the videos on his humongous bar.
Oh yeah.
He has a bar like this huge at home.
Selling was it whiskey or bourbon?
It's bourbon.
It's bourbon
Yeah.
whiskey, which means what is it made in Kentucky? It means it's made.
Mm-hmm. And it's really good. And he has all of it. You go in there, he has all the tequilas, he has all the whiskey, Irish. So the first time I went to his house, it was like you want to try this one? Have you tried that one? Have you tried that? I was like, oh man, I haven't even ate, I was like,
you look at that kitchen with the kitchen fire.
And then good thing that her wife is like, food is ready, and then she made fajitas, and I was like,
that's good. That sounds
I know that I was like,
for the folks who are watching us at a different time of day, all you guys need to know is it's dinner time here right now.
Oh yes, guys, it's dinner time, 6 o'clock.
Fajitas, and we're both like, it's time for fajitas.
Fajitas, yes, chicken, beef.
So how do we want to end this, right? Ultimately, every business is different. A lot of the advice that I gave here today is just really generalized advice. It's not anything that's specific to any one business, or it may not fit your specific situation. But if you have, any questions or anything, feel free to reach out. I'm sure that you will contact information.
Yes, I already been before this, like 2 weeks. I've been going to networking. They're like, who is this Colleen? It's like, you're talking about her. So I said, you gotta watch the show. And she's like, whoa, she must know a lot of stuff. And then I put all that. Oh, she does know everything.
So, when you get into those more specific situations, because that's the thing, is every business is different, right? Mm-hmm. Some businesses, they might make clothes, they might make equipment, they might make widgets, they might have transportation, might be a medical transportation business, they could be doctors. Every business is its own little unique, I don't know.
There's so much.
Snowflake, because the term snowflake has.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know who ruined the term snowflake.
I know.
I love snowflakes.
That's a bad word now when you use a snowflake. What are you talking about?
It has more meaning than it should now. And when growing up, it's just like I make snowflakes.
You cut
a piece of paper and you make.
That's a snowflake. Yes, it should be that. It stay that way.
So every business really is its own unique, situation. So everybody's different, right? As I could say, cybersecurity for one client gets you get insurance, and the next client, that's totally superfluous, right? Or I take a look at their contracts and I say, well, it's good for this situation, but it's not good for that situation. So the law, unfortunately, is complicated, and it's not as black and white as it seems. And so So yeah, and all I can say is I'm here for you when you have the questions. And do I have an answer to everything? No, but I'll darn well try to get you one, even if I don't know the answer. Chances are I know somebody who does know the answer, right? And that's kind of
that's a good thing.
The beauty of even
Yes.
if you have a good CPA or bookkeeper or mentor or something, and you can be able to turn to them and say, I need help with this problem. What's the solution? I mean, there's some of them that are just going to be easy, straightforward solutions, and then there's other ones. There's just going to be a lot more to unpack, right? I've had clients come to me and they say, "I know I need a pivot, but I don't really know what I need to do." Or they get business from a different direction, but they don't really want it. They're like, what do I do with all this business, but how do I still make money? And, you just don't want to bother with it. For instance, a commercial construction company then gets referrals for residential construction, right? But they don't want to do residential. Maybe they did it at one point in time, but they don't want to do it anymore. And so trying to, help a business grow and evolve and answer all their questions and just be there for them and guide them. So everybody's also at different parts of what we call the business cycle, the business life cycle.
There you go.
And so they might be a startup, they might be in the middle, they might be towards
scaling.
the end.
Yeah, they might be scaling.
And so there's business life cycles look different for every business as well. And so I try to have them map that out as, where are you in the business life cycle? And just rolls back into the exit plan. And some people say I want to exit in 5 years, and then 15 years they're still in the business.
They're still in the business.
Right?
Yeah, you cannot say it because you go through a lot of things.
And sometimes it's because they did that on purpose, and other times it's because they got stuck in the business. They couldn't exit. Maybe they didn't know how to manage it. Maybe they weren't making money.
That's true.
It does happen. And some people just kind of double down and they stay in the business. And it's just interesting. It's all interesting. Everybody's different.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you guys, and thank you for being here.
Yes.
And like I said, it's not gonna be the last time. I got so much information, and when you watch this replay, I know it's for an hour and almost 2 hours, but it's okay. Like I said, we're gonna turn this to mini series for 10 minutes, so y'all can get 10 minutes of just that, 10 minutes of just that. So you'll be sitting down, be like, oh, okay, because that's a podcast is just we're getting in here. It's a conversation. That's what I put it there. It's a conversation / interview. Because you get to conversate, you get to know the person. Oh, everything that we talked about was what she does and a little bit about college and stuff like that. But that's what y'all want to know. So I was very, very happy to have her here. And like I said, it's going to be more of her. Yeah. And thank you very much, guys. I mean, I don't even know what to say. There was too much information.
I try to take a very preventative
but I wanted it.
Certainly most of my days are filled with folks who have made the phone call and something has gone haywire. Maybe because I wasn't involved in the beginning, or something is just different than was originally anticipated. And so, if you're on the fence about hiring an attorney, especially a transactional one, just know that we provide the most value on the front end. Truly, I truly believe that is that if you bring in an attorney early on, not necessarily what you say early and often, but if you bring in an attorney early on and you're having to pay attorney's fees, which attorneys aren't cheap, I'm going to just say that attorneys aren't cheap. But if you are willing to go and pay that upfront money, you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck. Because me having to clean up a mess not only costs 2, 3 times plus as much, the reason why it costs that much is because it's more time.
Yeah, it's
right. I mean, it's just my time. Everything is connected to how much time it takes for me to do something, and so for me to enact more preventative measures doesn't take me nearly as much time as it is for me to go clean up a mess. And so most of this podcast was about how do we prevent those messes from happening in the first place, as opposed to what happens when the mess happens, right? Because at that point I'm getting that phone call and then we're having to evaluate, do we want to sue, do we not want to sue, are we getting sued? What is happening, what has gone wrong? Because at that point it's too late to get the full value of that attorney, right? I mean, truly the full value. If you're looking at attorneys and you're saying, I don't want to spend $400 an hour or $200 an hour, whatever cost per hour, I guarantee you, you're getting more money's worth on the front end.
Yeah, and you're right. You're right.
And it's cheaper too. Really, it doesn't seem like it, but those folks, the folks who've been in business a long time, they bring their attorneys everywhere.
Yeah, I've seen that.
They bring them in early and often because they know. They've figured out, they've learned the hard way. So take some of their lessons and try to incorporate that into your business if you can, which is if you bring us in early, we can prevent a lot of things from going sideways, from happening.
And spend more money on those things.
And then you can spend that money in other places, really, because you're not wasting, let's say you don't have the opportunity cost where you're wasting that time looking at an acquisition that's not going to close anyway, right? So I know we just continued on to another section.
I know.
But if anybody, I'm here for you, and I'm super excited. I want to go see the Kid Shark Tank now. So.
Right, yes. Thank you, guys. I'm gonna leave you with.
Thank you, everyone.
I'm gonna leave you with that video of the first one that Channel 2 said, "Hey, they're coming out with that video. I got it here, so check it out." And we're done. And thank you. And you keep on enjoying your day. Go eat your fajitas if you're in whatever Central Time or PST.
This is so much fun.
Thank you, guys. God bless.
So, Tylen, you ready to be lit today?
Yeah, it's finna get turned. No.
I just want to know where the wings are. Yeah.
Let's get it.
I'm taking all of them off though.
It's the N-O-A-H, and you can find me in the H where the candy paint shine and the vibe is so great. We the youth and we speaking up, united with faith. Mom and dad told me protect my name, make sure he's right, and we all that. Check it, it's all fact. G's laughing, little Jesse, that's all racks. Yeah, the stock's raising a higher ratings, and we hot on fire like we Cajun. By the way, 3 wings is my favorite flavor. Can't stop, won't stop. Diddy about the paper, fresh cut lineup with a little taper. Better hold your girl's hand, 'cause I might just take her. Throw that they jump up, come on. Throw that they jump up, let me see you. Throw that they jump up, everybody. Throw that they jump up, come on. Throw that they jump up, let me see you. Throw that they jump up, everybody. Throw that they jump up, come on. Throw that they jump up.
Home of the Astros, Rockets, Texans, the Dynamos. You can catch a slab or 2 parked by the Simon Go. We don't keep it true around here, just to let you know. Texas culture, you know how the South roll. Yeah, I keep it trusted with the long hair. G-style, you can help with if you stop or stare. We got a lockdown on A-Sound everywhere. Tylen, Carmelo, saying hello to you, world. We do this for the boys and girls. A new wave, the G-boys take center stage. I'm proud too, with real lyrics to guide you. And other rappers clean up on our too.
Throw that they jump up, come on. Throw that they jump up, let me see you. Throw that they jump up, everybody. Throw that they jump up, come on. Throw that they jump up, let me see you. Throw that they jump up, everybody. Throw that they jump up, come on. Throw that they jump up. Well, it's certified, Houston, Texas, picture the game. Ride shocking in the floor, with my pop switching lanes. Lyrically acclaim, on the throne of reign. Little Jesse yelling diamonds on my piece and chain. And I'm on like a Tesla, more about to test ya. Beats on the mic, yeah, the kid just blessed ya. Headed to the top, legendary like Pac. Speakers about to pop my music, beat at the block. I'm an H-Town king, I make the crowd scream. Ever since I be cancer, I've been living my dream. Trying to stack up a milli, G-Boys coming with me. I started a show when I'm rapping my city. Throw that